Something is watching a girl at the edge of a forest. Behind her, cattle graze. In front of her, between the trees, it waits. She thinks it is a wolf. Then, it steps into the light. Too long, too wide. A dark stripe down its back. And unlike a wolf, it does not hesitate. She runs for the herd. The creature follows. Only when the bulls lower their horns and drive it back into the trees does she survive. Soon, another girl will not survive, and then another. Villages will begin locking their doors before sunset, while France sends soldiers, professional hunters, and even the personal gun bearer of the king. They will search for 3 years, and around 100 people will die. The king will celebrate the death of a beast, only for the killing to continue, and the one body that might have answered every question will eventually be left to rot. This is the story of the Beast of Gévaudan. In 1764, far from Versailles, in the mountains of southern France, lay Gevaudan, a poor and isolated region filled with wolves. Everyone who lived there knew what a wolf looked like, which is why the first witnesses were so disturbed. They did not claim that an unusually large wolf had arrived. They said something had appeared that looked like a wolf, but was not a wolf. On June 30th, 14-year-old Jean Boulet was tending livestock near Les Aubacs when she disappeared. She never returned home, and her badly mutilated body was later discovered. The parish record described her killer using 3 words: the ferocious beast. It was a small sentence, but it marked the beginning of 3 years of terror. In the weeks that followed, more people vanished. A woman traveling between villages disappeared, followed by a child tending sheep and a shepherd working alone. Those who survived long enough to describe their attacker agreed on one disturbing detail. It was not afraid of people. A wolf would normally avoid settlements, but this animal entered them openly. It attacked in daylight and approached people who were shouting, carrying sticks, or standing beside livestock. Even when they fought back, it did not always run. Sometimes it moved away, stopped at a distance, and watched them before attacking again. The creature appeared to prefer people over sheep, particularly women and children. It attacked the face, throat, and head. Some victims were dragged away, while others were discovered partly eaten. As the killings continued, rumors spread faster than facts. People claimed that it could leap over walls, survive bullets, stand on 2 legs, and vanish whenever hunters arrived. Some called it a werewolf, while others believed it was a demon. Fear was no longer producing questions. It was beginning to harden into certainty. By the end of 1764, Gevaudan was frozen with fear. Fields were left empty. Children were kept indoors, and knives and pitchforks waited beside almost every door. Then the Bishop of Mons declared that the attacks were divine punishment, a scourge sent by God because of the people's sins. Church bells rang, masses filled, and villagers prayed for protection, but the killing continued. With every new body, the bishop's warning appeared more convincing. The attacker no longer felt like an ordinary animal. To the people of Gevaudan, it felt like something that had been sent for them. Then, in January 1765, it attacked a group of children in an open field, turning a local nightmare into a national crisis. On January 12th, 12-year-old Jacques Portefeuille was watching cattle near Villeray with several other children when the beast charged. Most of its previous victims had been caught alone, but Jacques ordered the children to stay together. They formed a tight group, and whenever the creature attacked one child, the others struck it from the sides. It knocked them down, but they stood again. When it tried to drag away the youngest boy, the children chased it and forced it to release him. These were children fighting something that had already killed adults. Yet, somehow, they survived. News of their survival reached Versailles, where King Louis XV rewarded Jacques and paid for his education. Their courage, however, also embarrassed the French authorities. Soldiers were already hunting the beast, yet a group of children had achieved what the army could not. The Beast of Gévaudan now had the attention of the most powerful man in France, and the hunt intensified. Captain Jean-Baptiste Duhamel sent hundreds of men through the forests, hoping to block every escape and force the creature into the open. The plan was simple: surround it, expose it, and kill it. The landscape made that almost impossible. Gevaudan was filled with ravines, hidden valleys, and dense forests where hunting parties could lose contact with one another. Again and again, the creature slipped away. Sometimes it attacked while soldiers were searching only a few kilometers away. The king then sent a famous father and son team of wolf hunters, equipped with trained hounds. They followed tracks, laid traps, and killed several large wolves, but every new carcass raised the same question: was this the beast? Every new victim gave the answer: it was not. By the summer of 1765, the king had lost patience and sent François Antoine, his personal gun-bearer and one of the most respected hunters in France. Antoine arrived to restore the honor of the crown, but France was about to celebrate the wrong death. Before that celebration, a servant woman would meet the beast at arm's length. On August 11, 1765, Marie Jeanne Vallée was crossing a narrow bridge near Polac with several other women when the creature charged towards them. There was nowhere to hide and almost no room to escape. The women carried crude spears, but as the others pulled back, Marie Jeanne stood her ground. When the beast lunged, she drove the spear into its chest. For one locked moment, woman and animal faced each other at close range. The creature fell into the water, climbed onto the opposite bank, and disappeared into the forest, bleeding. Antoine praised her courage, and she became known as the Maid of Gevaudan. She had struck the beast at close range, but it was still alive and still missing. A little more than a month later, Antoine believed he had found the answer. In late September, near the Abbey of Chaz, he and his men cornered an enormous wolf. Antoine fired, and the animal fell, but then it rose and came towards him. A second shot finally killed it. The wolf was unusually large, and reports claimed that human remains were found inside its stomach. Survivors were brought to examine the body, and some said they recognized old scars. France finally had its monster. The carcass was presented as the Beast of Gévaudan. The king rewarded Antoine, and official reports declared the terror over. The royal court celebrated, and for a time, the attacks stopped. The silence lasted into the winter. Then another body appeared, followed by another, carrying the same wounds and belonging to the same kind of victims. Versailles had killed a wolf, but Gevaudan still had a nightmare. Admitting the truth would have humiliated the king, so official interest quietly faded, and the royal hunters did not return. The region was abandoned with whatever remained in its forests. This second phase of the terror felt different. The attacks were less frequent and appeared more cautious. The creature would strike, disappear, and then appear somewhere far away. Was it the same animal, now wounded and careful, or a second animal entirely? Were several wolves being transformed by fear into one impossible creature? No one knew. They knew only that, after the king declared victory, the killing continued for almost 2 more years. By 1767, terror had become ordinary. Children traveled in groups, weapons waited beside doors, and every sound from the forest raised the same question. Then, the Marquis d'Apcher organized a local hunt, relying not on royal experts but on men who knew the hills. On June 19th, they searched the wooded slopes near Montmouche. Among them was Jean Chastel, a local farmer and hunter. Later stories claim that he stopped to pray before loading his gun with silver bullets. It is a powerful image, but it was almost certainly added afterwards. The surviving records give us something simpler and colder. Chastel saw the animal, raised his gun, and fired. This time, it did not rise. The dead animal was examined and measured. It appeared wolf-like, but witnesses considered its proportions unusual. They recorded its broad head, paws, and coloring, and claimed that the remains of its latest victim were found inside its stomach. For those present, that was enough. This was the beast. After Chastel's shot, the attacks stopped, not merely for a few weeks or one season, but forever. They attempted to preserve the body for further study, but the summer heat destroyed it. By the time it reached Paris, it was already rotting and was eventually discarded. No skeleton remained, no skin was preserved, and no future scientist would ever be able to examine it. The only physical evidence that might have ended the argument was gone. The simplest explanation is also the most likely. There was never one supernatural monster. There were wolves, poverty, harsh winters, disease, and perhaps several animals that learned isolated people were easier prey than livestock. Fear may then have combined many attacks into the legend of one creature, but important questions remained. Why did so many witnesses refuse to call it a wolf? Why did it appear to hunt people more often than livestock? Why did the attacks continue after Antoine killed his enormous wolf, yet stop permanently on the day Chastel fired? Other theories have been proposed. Some believe it was a wolf-dog hybrid or an escaped exotic animal. Others suggested that it wore some kind of armor, explaining the stories of bullets failing to kill it. The darkest theory is that a person raised the creature, directed it, and protected it. Under that theory, the Beast of Gévaudan was not a demon, but part of a crime. There is no proof. Although suspicion has long surrounded the Chastel family and local nobles who were known to keep unusual animals. Strange animal behavior does not prove the existence of a human plan, but the truth may have been ordinary, or it may have been something far worse. For 3 years, something hunted the people of Gevaudan. Soldiers failed to stop it, professional hunters failed to identify it, and the king announced its death while the killing continued. Then one local hunter fired a single shot, and it ended. The body that might have answered every question was allowed to decay. All that remains are burial records, witness statements, official reports, and a story that has refused to die for more than 260 years. Perhaps it was never one creature. Perhaps it was several wolves, magnified by fear. Perhaps it was an animal the villagers had no name for. Or perhaps the most frightening part of the story was never the animal. Perhaps, somewhere behind the attacks, there was a human mind. We will probably never know. The beast is gone, the body is gone, and every witness is gone. Whatever truth once existed was buried with them. And if it really was only a wolf, why did so many people who saw it insist that it was not?